Wscv Virtual Channel 51 is the flagship station of the Spanish-language Telemundo network that's licensed to Fort Lauderdale, serving Miami, Florida, United States. The station's owned by the NBC Universal-owned television station subsidiary of NBC Universal as part of a duopoly with NBC-owned and operated station WTVJ. The two stations share studio and office facilities on Southwest 27th Street in Miramar. Wscv's transmitter is located near Sun Life Stadium in North Miami-Dade County. The station also serves as the de facto Telemundo affiliate for the West Palm Beach market. History: the UHF Channel 51 allocation in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale market was previously occupied by WSMS-TV, an independent station that debuted on December 6, 1968. Under the ownership of Gold Coast Telecasting, the station would cease operations on August 10, 1970, due to financial issues. The current station on Channel 51 was developed after another company acquired the Channel 51 license in January 1972. Wscv first signed on the air, on February 14, 1972, as WKID-TV. Operating as an independent station, it maintained a bilingual format featuring a mix of English and Spanish language programming. The station would later be acquired by an investment group headed by William F. Johns and Alvin Koenig in 1976, after WKID's previous owners went bankrupt. During the late 1970s, WKID aired Spanish-language programming during the daytime and a slate of older English-language films and sitcoms during the overnight hours, with all other Miami-area stations having signed off the air during the overnight hours. WKID's late-night programming reached cult status among South Florida residents who stayed up at night. Dubbed the all-night show, WKID's late-night block consisted of a mix of films, television series, music videos and classic cartoons, along with special guests. The all-night show was hosted by Dave Dixon, an icon from that era of South Florida UHF television. The all-night show is believed to have served as the inspiration for USA Network's similar late-night block, Night Flight. During this era, cable providers that carried competing independent WCIX outside of the Miami market carried WKID during the overnight hours. After WCIX signed off for the night, WKID-TV was also the first affiliate of sorts for what would become the Christian Television Network, as the network purchased a block of evening airtime every night on Channel 51 prior to the establishment of its first station, WCLF in Tampa. In 1980, the group sold WKID to Oak Industries, a cable television equipment manufacturer and owner of ONTV, a subscription television service that was carried during the evening hours, which could only be viewed for a monthly fee, and required a set-top decoder box and outdoor antenna for adequate reception. The station's programming during this period included business news programming from the Financial News Network during the daytime hours, a horse racing show hosted by Bob Savage in the early evening, and on-TV programming at night. With the expansion of cable television in the Miami area, on-TV proved to be an ill-fated venture and was dropped by WKID-TV in the mid-1980s. Julio Rambo, an American Spanish-language media entrepreneur, led the acquisition and operations of the station by Blair Broadcasting, which changed the station's call sign to WSCV. The station switched to a Spanish-language language programming format in the spring of 1985 with Wscv, positioning its programming as a local, independent Miami-targeted alternative to Spanish international network affiliate WLTV. Julio Rambo, president of Telemundo of Florida, led Wscv as a catalyst and one of the flagship stations of NetSpan in 1986. The Reliance Group, then owners of NetSpan, acquired Wscv and Blair's other Spanish-language stations, as well as WNJU in New York City, KVEA in Los Angeles and WKAQ-TV in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and used them to relaunch the network as Telemundo in 1987. Digital television, digital channels, analog to digital conversion. Wscv terminated its analog signal on UHF channel 51 on June 12, 2009, as part of the federally mandated transition from analog to digital television. The station's digital signal relocated from its pre-transition UHF channel 52, which was among the high-band UHF channels that were removed from broadcasting use as a result of the transition, to UHF channel 30. Through the use of PSIP, digital television receivers display Wscv's virtual channel as 51. News operation. Wscv presently broadcasts 19.5 hours of locally produced news and talk programming each week. In addition, the station produces the half-hour entertainment and lifestyle program Access O Total. The station launched its news department in 1987 when it debuted a half-hour 6 o'clock p.m. newscast titled Noticiero 51 a las 6. It was anchored by Cuban-born Lucy Pereda and Eduardo Arango. Pereda left Wscv the following year to co-anchor Univision's first morning program, Mundo Latino, alongside Frank Moro, a Cuban telenovela actor who left to return to acting in Mexican telenovelas. He was substituted by George Ramos. Wscv hired Maria Montoya, a former actress who had arrived in Miami as part of the Mariel boat lift of 1980, and Ambrosio Hernandez, who had worked at several stations in Chicago, to complement the team, which included weather anchor Angel Martin and sportscaster René Giraldo. Telemundo president Julio Rambo hired Montoya and Hernandez, both of whom would represent the longest-serving anchor team in the United States in any language, until Montoya was fired in late 2013. Giraldo later became a sports anchor for the Telemundo network. Wscv was positioned as the Cuban station in stark contrast to WLTV, which aired Mexican programming and was therefore perceived, in some circles, as less anti-Castro. In 1988, Alfredo Duran, who was recently hired as the station's general manager, announced that well-known WLTV reporter Alina Mayo was hired by Wscv. As his heralded arrival was diminished when Duran announced the hire of WLTV main anchor Leticia Calava to co-anchor the station's 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock p.m. newscasts with Calava, regarded as the most respected news anchor on Spanish-language television, was fired by WLTV management shortly after Duran defected to Telemundo. Calava and Duran had become a couple at the time, and this triggered a series of events that would change the Latin television landscape in Miami. Several news reporters and both Montoya and Hernandez bolted to WLTV as the station tried to reinvent itself. Under Duran's oversight, the station's newscasts were retitled Noticiero 51, with both and Calava as its lead anchors, becoming the first all-female anchored team on a Spanish-language newscast in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale market. The revamp would help Wscv's fortunes in local news and earned the station 12 Emmy Awards during the late 1980s. 2 years later, in 1990, Wscv announced that Mayo-As would depart the station. Several months later, Mayo-As was hired as anchor at WLTV. Argentinian news anchor Nicolas Casanzu, who became famous covering the Falklands War for the state-run network ATC, was then hired as co-anchor of the evening newscasts. Casanzu was later removed as anchor after Ambrosio Hernandez was rehired by Wscv. The backstage drama between Calaver and Hernandez was more intriguing than what viewers saw on the station's newscasts. It was rumored that each would count the stories assigned to them to be on even ground. In 2001, as part of a strategy by Telemundo management to expand local news programming on its stations, Wscv added a 2-hour weekday morning newscast and half-hour weekend evening newscasts at 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock p.m. The station rehired Maria Montoya to serve as anchor of the morning newscast at 11:30 a.m. Other anchors that Wscv hired was Ivan Taylor, who anchored the weekend newscast, and Jose Camilo and Lisette Mari anchored the 2-hour morning edition. In 2003, Montoya was reassigned to the 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock p.m. newscasts, being repaired with Ambrosio Hernandez. After spending 25 years as Miami's most well-known television personality, Leticia Calaver's contract was not renewed when allegedly she refused to take a pay cut. Calaver has since become the television spokesperson for Humana-owned Miami healthcare conglomerate Care Plus, while Duranes now serves as general manager for Latin America. Wscv's late evening newscast registered its first-ever first-place win in the 11 o'clock p.m. slot, beating other area newscasts including its main Spanish-language rival WLTV in May 2006. The station has won the 11 o'clock p.m. time period many times since, most recently during the May 2013 sweeps period. On March 5, 2008, Wscv became the first Spanish-language television station in the Miami FD Lauderdale market to begin broadcasting its local newscasts in high definition. Wscv's HD production equipment was among the assets that were to be acquired in a proposed 2008 sale of sister station WTVJ to Post Newsweek stations, which would later be terminated due to financial issues and a lack of FCC approval. For over a year, the station's newscasts were broadcast in 16:9 widescreen high definition, while all other programming continued to air in up-converted and pillar-boxed 4:3 standard definition until April 23, 2009, when Telemundo became the first Spanish-language network in the United States to carry programming in HD. In June 2013, after about a year or more of having aired its early evening newscast in the earlier time slot due to movies airing in the 6 o'clock p.m. time slot on Saturday and Sunday evenings, Wscv officially announced that its weekend early evening newscast would move a half-hour early from 6 o'clock to 5:30 p.m. full-time. On October 18 of that year, Maria Montoya abruptly left the station, breaking up the longest-tenured anchor duo in South Florida, in order to pursue other opportunities. In a statement by station management, Montoya left the station without conducting a formal departure. On that evening's 6 o'clock p.m. newscast, Ambrosio Hernandez solo anchored the broadcast, and after a quick introduction, simply mentioned that Montoya was not here. Buenos Dias Miami anchor Daisy Balmo was appointed as weeknight co-anchor on October 28. On April 24, 2014, Wscv debuted a new set with monitors, Big TV's new Weather Center, Sports Center, live pictures in the background through a monitor in the back, similar to WNBC-TV and KNBC-TV, Chicago's WMAQ-TV, Los Angeles KVEA-TV, Texas stations KXAS-TV and KXDX-TV and sister station WTVJ-TV. On November 3, along with 13 other network-owned stations, it launched a new 5:30 p.m. newscast along with the existing weekday 6 o'clock p.m. show, giving the early evening news another half hour. On March 20, 2015, at the end of the 11 o'clock p.m. newscast, Daisy Balmaho and Fausto Malav mentioned that Ambrosio Hernandez had decided to leave Wscv for another opportunity and bid him farewell and good luck. Hernandez, which was under contractual renewal negotiations, was unable to reach a common ground with Wscv. WLTV Univision 23 outbid Wscv's offer and offered him work as main anchor as well as positions in radio and digital media platforms. The same day the announcement was made, his attorney notified Wscv of his resignation. This marked the departure of the second longest tenured on-air personality on Channel 51, the first being Marilis Llanos, who has been with the station since sign-on in June 1985 and is still there.